Putting them in parallel creates what designers call the runway effect. Staggering them creates a natural pattern that guides you without looking like an airport. There's something that happens when someone pulls up to your house at night for the first time. Within the first 5 seconds, they've already formed an opinion about the place. Not about the interior decor, not about the furniture, about what they saw from outside before walking in. And outdoor lighting is the single biggest factor shaping that first nighttime impression. The problem is, at most houses have the exact same lighting mistakes. Mistakes that make a facade that looks fine during the day look neglected, cold, or flat out unsafe at night. And the most frustrating part of all is that almost none of them cost more than $100 to fix. Today we're going to look at 6 of those mistakes, and there's one on this list that goes beyond just looks. It has to do with real safety. With data that completely changes how you think about lighting your entryway. If this is what you needed to hear, hit subscribe. Let's get into number 1. Cheap solar lights that die within months. I'm going to start with something that's in millions of American yards and has a promise it almost never keeps. Those solar stake lights you buy in 12 packs for $20. You know them. You see them in every aisle at Home Depot and Walmart, and the pitch is hard to resist. No wires, no electrician, stake them in and you're done. The problem isn't the idea, it's what's inside the battery. And here's something manufacturers don't put on the box. The battery is the #1 cause of failure in these lights, not the LED. The cheap batteries these products use degrade with every charge cycle. And in summer, when the solar panel is in direct sunlight, the temperature inside the battery compartment can hit 158 degrees Fahrenheit. At that temperature, a battery that should last 1,000 cycles lasts 250. That's less than a year of real use. Janet Lennox Moyer, author of the most cited reference book in the landscape lighting industry with 45 years of experience, put it bluntly. I'm not a fan of solar lights because they're too erratic. And Consumer Reports, after testing multiple models, found they range from very dim to moderately bright, with most failing in rainy or hot conditions. The math that changes the picture: 10 cheap solar lights at $20 each replaced every 1 to 2 years, over 10 years, cost between $100 and $200. A quality low voltage lighting system installed once costs between $200 and $400 and lasts 15 to 20 years. The cheap option ends up being the most expensive. If you want solar lights that actually work, look for models with a lithium iron phosphate battery, which lasts between 2,000 and 5,000 cycles versus the 1,000 cycles of cheap batteries and a minimum IP65 water resistance rating. The price difference is real, but the difference in lifespan is 5 to 10 times longer. Those solar lights affect how your yard looks at night, but the next mistake affects something more specific: the color temperature of your lighting. And it's something almost nobody considers when buying bulbs, but it completely determines whether your exterior looks welcoming or looks like a parking lot. Mixing warm and cool color temperatures. Step outside at night and look at your facade. Are there lights that look yellow or gold next to others that look white or bluish? If the answer is yes, you have this problem. And even if you can't name it, anyone who pulls up to your house is going to feel it, even if they don't know exactly what they're looking at. Color temperature is measured in Kelvin. You don't need to understand the physics behind it. You just need to know this: low numbers like 2,700 Kelvin are warm, golden light like a candle. High numbers like 5,000 Kelvin are cool, bluish light like office lighting. And when you mix the two in the same outdoor space, the result is exactly what TrueScape's landscape lighting describes. Mixing a pathway light at 2,700 Kelvin with an uplight at 4,000 Kelvin on a nearby tree can be visually jarring and look unprofessional. Family Handyman said it even more directly: nothing screams emergency room more than a flash of cool white light. And a home staging expert added something I think is perfect: mixing color temperatures makes a house look like a hospital hallway instead of a cozy home. Why do stores sell so many cool bulbs? Because 4,000 to 5,000 Kelvin bulbs produce more lumens per watt, look brighter on the shelf, and that makes them easier to sell. Dr. Mario Mata, co-author of the American Medical Association report on LED lighting, said it in January 2025. Manufacturers pushed 4,000 and 5,000 Kelvin bulbs because they already had them on the market, prioritizing profits over emerging health concerns. The fix is simple: 2,700 Kelvin for everything in your residential exterior. That's the unanimous recommendation from the industry, from Dark Sky International, and from the AMA. If you have mixed bulbs right now, replace the cool ones first. A 2,700 Kelvin LED bulb costs less than $3. The impact on how your exterior feels at night is immediate: a single security light that flattens everything. This is the most common mistake in homes built before 2010. A single security light or floodlight in the corner of the roof lights up the entire front of the house with one bright beam. It has a name in the industry that describes it perfectly: the prison yard effect. Hyperlight, a lighting manufacturer, documented it this way: floodlights tend to visually flatten the landscape, wiping out the shadows and textures that create depth in a garden design. A single overhead light eliminates the contrast, shadows, and depth that create visual interest. With no shield, the glare can be blinding to pedestrians and annoying to the neighbors. Nicola Cameron of Pipo Botanic Design confirmed it on House. Garden lighting needs to be balanced and comfortable instead of confusing or overwhelming. Floodlights tend to light up the whole yard and can be harsh and uncomfortable. But there's something more important than the visual side. The CDC explicitly recommends keeping outdoor areas well lit as a fall prevention measure, and the numbers are devastating. In 2024, 43,020 people over the age of 65 died as a result of preventable falls. More than half of all falls happen at home. Inadequate lighting is documented as a risk factor in between 16 and 27% of falls in residences. A study published in PubMed in 2022 found that lighting improvements reduced the fall rate by 43% in homes that implemented them. 43% just from lighting. The fix isn't getting rid of the security light, it's layering with it. HGTV sums it up perfectly. Spotlights and floodlights are great for security, but not ideal for a summer dinner outside. A combination of light sources is the best option: path lights for walkways, uplights for trees and architecture, and the security light as a background layer, not as the only source. That single light flattens the space. But there's something that happens on walkways and entry steps. That's where the real risk is concentrated. And it's a mistake most homeowners don't see until someone trips. Walkways and steps without proper lighting. Inadequate lighting on walkways and steps is one of the most well-documented risk factors. The most common mistake isn't having no lights, it's having them in the wrong spots. Path lights that are too bright create glare instead of guiding you. Lights spaced too far apart leave dark zones between them. Or lights pointed up instead of down, lighting the sky instead of the ground where people walk. The pros have very specific rules for this. The recommended spacing between path lights is 6 to 10 feet. On curves and corners, 5 to 6 feet. On the last 10 to 15 feet before the front door, closer together to guide the arrival. For a 30-foot walkway, you need between 4 and 6 lights. And the standard height for a path light is 12 to 24 inches, enough to light the ground without blinding whoever's walking. The right brightness for residential walkways is between 100 and 200 lumens per fixture. Dark Sky International recommends no more than 300 lumens for walkways. That's way less than what most people install, thinking more light is better. More light on a walkway doesn't mean more safety. It means more glare and worse visibility in the dark areas next to it. And there's something almost nobody thinks about: staggering the lights on alternating sides of the walkway instead of putting them in parallel. Cables buried too shallow or left exposed. This is the mistake that causes the most problems long term, because you don't see it until the damage is already done. Low voltage lighting cables left on top of the ground, buried 1 inch deep, or run across the grass without any protection at all. What happens with those cables is predictable. Lawnmowers cut them, garden tools puncture them, animals chew them, and the sun degrades the insulation in 1 to 2 years if they're exposed. The result is a system that fails mysteriously, with lights that flicker or won't turn on, and requires replacing cables that are already buried under the yard. The National Electrical Code, which is the standard reference in the United States, specifies that low-voltage lighting wiring under 30 volts requires a minimum of 6 inches of ground cover, under driveways, 18 inches, under streets, 24 inches. And the cable has to be specifically direct burial rated, which has a PVC jacket that's resistant to moisture, UV rays, and underground conditions. Standard indoor cable won't cut it, even if you bury it. Jim Stuckey, founder of Stuckey Landscape and Design with over 25 years of experience, said it in Living Etc. I recommend using a 6-inch deep trench, typically along the foundation of the house under the mulch. Pros also use PVC conduit in hardscape areas and UV-resistant clips to fasten cables under deck beams and pergolas. The connection between cables is the other weak point. Ground Source Pro documented it this way: connectors are the weak points in landscape lighting wiring, especially with moisture. The best connectors are filled with silicone sealant. A poorly sealed connector in a 12-volt system can fail in a single rainy season, ignoring the 3-layer rule. And we get to the last one. And this is the one that transforms an exterior the most when you fix it. Because it's not a mistake about one specific element. It's a full concept mistake. Most exteriors have just one layer of lighting, a few path lights, or a security light, or some string lights. And the result is a space that looks flat, with no depth, no atmosphere, like a photo with no contrast. The 3-layer approach every professional lighting designer uses is simple once you get it. Layer 1. Task lighting at ground level. Path lights, step lights, deck lights. Their job is safety and navigation. 100 to 200 lumens per fixture. Layer 2. Accent lighting at mid-level. Uplights at the base of trees or walls, spotlights on architectural features. Their job is to create depth and drama. 50 to 300 lumens. Layer 3. Ambient lighting up high. Hanging lights, moonlighting from trees, lights built into a pergola. Their job is to create atmosphere and define the space. Mark Piantadosi, a contributor to This Old House, summed it up with a line I think is perfect. You want pools of light that guide your eye from one plant to the next, not continuous lighting. And Janet Lennox Moyer added something that captures exactly why this works. In landscape lighting, even though we have to think about safety and getting people from point A to point B, what we're predominantly doing is giving people a view back into the night. The cost of putting all 3 layers in doesn't have to be huge. A DIY low voltage system with 8 to 10 fixtures and a transformer costs between $99 and $150. A mid-range kit with 8 to 10 fixtures costs between $199 and $350. And the return on investment is documented. The NAR report gave landscape lighting the highest joy score of all outdoor projects studied, 10 out of 10, with a 59% return on resale value. A landscape designer with 30 years of experience said it in Sunset magazine with a kind of honesty you don't often hear. In 30 years, I've never had anyone tell me there are too many lights. Not once. In fact, people usually say, wow, that makes a huge difference. Can we add more? 6 mistakes. Some of them you have, some you don't. But now you see them. And what interests me most about this topic is that none of them requires a full renovation to fix. Swapping the bulbs to 2,700 Kelvin costs less than $20. Adding 3 well-placed path lights costs less than $50. Burying the existing cables properly is an afternoon's work. Outdoor lighting is the only element of your home that works for you while you sleep. It's out there every night, forming the first impression of anyone who drives by your house. It's worth getting right. Tell me in the comments which of these 6 mistakes you recognized in your exterior. And if you want to know which patio trends are setting the tone for 2026, you can check out this video. See you next time.